Folks, today we have a great video. This guy hat here. Calgary sucks, dude. Canada, Calgary, gotta get out of here. Let's talk about some serious things. All right, you actually might know Jesse James West. He's a pretty big YouTuber right now. I seriously had no clue who he was until kind of this showed up in my algorithm, and I saw how relatable to the things that we talk about on this channel. He produces like really high production quality videos that are sort of edutainment, but also just more so like the Mr. Beast style kind of video. The dopamine edits, the high content value, right? Like doing multiple scenes, multiple podcasts, where he's conjoining all of these things into one video, making it this really exciting thing with an elaborate story. It's impressive, totally cool. And I think some of the videos are even fun. Not my thing, but fun. Now, I have done a lot of videos talking about females ripping through steroid vials like tins of foundation. We spent hours, literally hours on this channel reviewing certain females, their protocols, and how these things can actually be deleterious for their health, with the pharmacology included within those videos, talking elaborately about what women are doing and how it's affecting them. And just as a pre-frame, I don't think women using steroids or PEDs is essentially bad per se. I think women doing it with little to no education and really incorrect guidance is horrible and absolutely a terrible component of the fitness industry. Thus, my goal with a lot of the content that I produce is to educate as well as expose these certain things within the fitness community, with the idea of being able to prevent people from abusing these compounds or using them in the wrong way, which will just lead to inevitable failure. Because let's be for fucking real, there's a lot of idiots on the internet using steroids. And if there's a lot of idiots on the internet doing it, there are plenty more off the internet doing it. And this video ideally is going to be about me talking about some of the things that are brought up in this video, because I think it's actually really critical. There's some misinformation, and the thing about Jesse's content is it's targeted towards more general population. The content itself is easy to digest and very dumbed down in a sense, and so to misinterpret something that he's talking about here or other people are talking about is quite easy. Basically, to be quite frank, my goal is to point out the basic information that could be wrong or misinterpreted by the general population, as well as just to talk shit, because apparently that's all I do, according to you guys.
I am evil Homer. I am evil Homer. I am evil Homer. I am evil Homer.
Sure, I'm just an incel, just like Greg Doucette.
Stop being a moron!
But I'm taller, so it doesn't count.
Natty or not?
Do you think I'm natty?
I just have to ask.
I'm like 200 pounds.
I can't assume, okay?
I mean, you kind of can.
All right, I kind of knew.
If you're a female bodybuilder in the pro league, you're not natty.
While the looks on this one are interesting, this girl's definitely based.
Are you natural?
No.
What are you taking? I have no idea what the second one is.
It is also a really interesting decision that we're seeing they're censoring a lot of the information that they're providing as to what compounds that they're using, and I'm sure it's to prevent any sort of recreation of the drug use that these women are doing, which I think is actually pretty sensible. However, there is an issue with this. It could cause others to go seeking the information elsewhere, and that could be just as harmful, because in reality, there's not a lot of good resources, especially for females, to find out about this kind of stuff. However, just because these women are doing these things and they're not necessarily publishing it in this video, it doesn't mean that what they're doing is uniquely right. In fact, it could be arguably wrong. Many of these women are virilized, and that really sucks to see. And in fact, they're young, which is honestly really heartbreaking in a certain capacity. I've worked with a lot of females as a coach, and a lot of females who've had nasty, irreversible effects from misguidance with other coaches. It's one of the most depressing things I've honestly had to do in my career as a coach, to be fair. Now, for those of you who don't understand, virilization is essentially the effect of a female garnering male traits. These characteristics are developed in association with elevated androgens. And when a female injects these androgens, or what you consider maybe like testosterone, however, they're obviously using a wide array of different androgens here that are synthetic, whether that's injectable or oral means, by the way, it doesn't have to be injectable. Oftentimes they use too much, and a blatant misuse of these compounds or just little understanding simply leads to this virilization. This happens in many different ways, virilization. And one of the very clear-cut ways that you'll most often see, especially in this video, is what we call deepening of the voice. It's very easy.
For one thing for me, my voice was really tough when like a TikTok video would hit off and there would be like 1,000 comments saying like, are you on steroids? Are you a tranny? Are you a smoker? And I was like, wow, nobody even listens to the content. I had a conversation with Alex where I said like, I hate that this bothers me. It doesn't change what I'm doing, but I am bothered by this. And he said, well, does part of you think it's true? Do you think your voice is weird? Well, it is kind of weird. It's deep. And he's like, so then why do you blame them for thinking this?
This is what happens when essentially the larynx and specifically the vocal folds increases in size. They develop edema, but they also hypertrophy because of the AR or the androgen receptor signaling. It's happening locally to those tissues, and therefore the voice actually gets quite a few octaves deeper. Also, other common things you'll see is facial proportionate changes. You get to see a woman who has more of a pronounced jaw, a forebrow, a nose, and these things happen due to muscle development within facial tissues, which could just mean a bigger, leaner face that is more masculine, but also the activation of osteoblasts, a cell type that essentially allows bones to grow, and so certain bone features can develop in females that would not normally be there. These osteoblasts are activated through IGF-1, through insulin, and also androgen receptors. Both of these things, or all of them really, are possibly the things that these females have very high degrees of within their blood serum.
What are you taking?
I just take tests in GH.
I'm taking GH.
Jesus, this girl is so young. Honestly, I'm happy that they're chasing their goals. It's good to be spending your time chasing the things that you want in life. I just hope that she can truly define this as her goals. A lot of the times you see females getting pushed into this thing from their boyfriends, from male coaches, or just the sort of community around them. The walled garden really begins to form this confirmation bias, which can be quite destructive. It makes it seem like the only path forward for anybody, even males, is the use of steroids and the abuse of other things within the pharmacology space. I'll put faith in the fact that she's definitely happy with her choices and goals, and we can hope that, she lives a long life and is content with her decisions when she's 60, 50 years old. Because keep in mind, these are all permanent morphological changes to the body. These don't go away once you stop at all.
I'm taking GH.
Okay, she says she's taking growth hormone and then something else gets bleeped out. Unfortunately, I do too much work within the pharmaceutical stuff, so it's very clear that she's voicing out the word anavar or oxandrolone. This is a very common oral administered steroid that women use. It's prized for its mild androgenic properties, but in reality, that's not really true. It's just something that an old book that a guy named Bill Llewellyn wrote back in the day said it did, but doesn't actually turn out to be true in application. It does, however, make it sort of this appealing thing for females because they think they can take it without virilization, as well as they don't have to do an injection, which many females are very opposed to doing. That supposedly is also going to decrease or minimize the effect of virilization. It's going to minimize masculinization of a female using steroids. Sadly, again, this facade is not reality. You can get a female who is masculinizing herself with anavar even more than other compounds, to be honest. Even when you compare it to reasonable doses of testosterone, anavar can be much more deleterious in terms of masculinizing features in a female. This has sort of been a perpetuated thing from coach to coach in this industry for decades now, and so no one's really changing it. And again, a lot of people just have this misinformation built up in a category of social media content that they saved as their pieces of advice, or old coaches who claim to know what's best because it's worked with other people. In a therapeutic setting, anavar is applied. It's an approved drug for use, and it does work, right? They prescribe it for things like severe weight loss due to illnesses, bone loss, and other injury-based things like burn victims. This, of course, is not that setting, and the doses in which females are using it is quite drastically higher. Now, the other girl, who seems much more virilized with a deeper voice, also young, said that she's taking testosterone. Now, testosterone alone in females isn't a bad thing. I think a lot of people associate it with bad, but it's not. Testosterone is naturally occurring within females. They have to have it, similar to how males have to have testosterone, but also have estrogen. In fact, males have much more estrogen than females, by the way, and to a male ratio of testosterone to estrogen, a female would have actually a higher degree of testosterone compared to her serum estrogen. Also, I think correct doses matter so much here because females often get the doses wrong when they're giving themselves these compounds because the dosing isn't easy to understand. Sometimes the doses are so small, it's really hard to dose correctly, and you have females oftentimes miss dosing their compounds and products, especially testosterone. There's also a massive public perception that testosterone in females is going to cause virilizing effects instantly. And again, this isn't true. It's also why doctors see it as such a taboo. They won't often prescribe it at all. You have to go to private clinics, which is also extremely sketchy in and of itself.
I'm on just TRT from a doctor.
What has that experience been like?
It helped me, but I'm naturally very much overweight and worked out a long time, couldn't figure out why I wasn't losing weight. Then I got my blood drawn and I needed TRT.
Do you think people have a skewed perception of a woman that maybe is on TRT or on some sort of steroid compared to a man being on steroids?
Absolutely.
What do you think they're thinking?
We're girls, they're men, so why would we need testosterone? But women need it too.
From a doctor, eh? It's funny, I was just talking about this. Well, again, most doctors are never going to prescribe a female TRT. You can say, oh, my doctor did. You don't have a doctor. You have a private clinic who pays a doctor to write prescriptions. That is not a doctor.
So I'm like a doctor.
And if a doctor, an actual endocrinologist, did prescribe a testosterone dose to a female, it certainly wouldn't be at the dose of whatever she is taking, which is obviously not doing so great for the virilizing effects. A standard TRT dose for a female is literally 3 milligrams of testosterone per week, and oftentimes that's applied via transdermal methods, but there is injectable methods as well. 3 to generally around 6-7 milligrams of testosterone a week. She sounds like she's taking probably, and looks like she's taking closer to 20 to 30 milligrams a week, which is all too common within the private clinic scene in America. Keep in mind that a standard dose of conversion therapy for a female who's looking to convert into a male, it starts at 60 milligrams of testosterone per week. If you're taking half that dose suggested by a doctor, yeah, it's not so great for you. Also, she said that she was chronically overweight and couldn't figure out why until she got on test, bro. She was test maxing, and that's what got her success. I'm sorry, but testosterone has very little interplay to actual weight loss. Of course, building muscle is going to aid in calorie expenditure because that muscle tissue is very thermogenic, but at large, testosterone isn't independently going to rapidly increase fat loss. What does do that is calories, sweetie. You just kind of lower your fucking calories. You really just justified using steroids to yourself, but what you were probably doing was thinking that there was no solution until you took steroids, and then the steroids just made doing the things you needed to do much easier because it widened your margin of error to make progress.
Hello, your quads are insane.
Good to see you.
This is Hunter Henderson. She's competing at the Olympia for the first time this year. And oh yeah, she's definitely on steroids.
Oh, it's Hunter. I like her, but I've made a few videos on her in the past that have like reached over 1 million views on Instagram and shit. She might not like me, to be honest. She might not like me. Oh, also she's an OnlyFans model, which just in case you guys are interested, here's her info. Go sign up or something.
Like steroids? We started with just and now we've added in some towards the end. My coaches are like super health conscious.
Okay, good.
I've had coaches in the past who were not.
And what, they push you too far?
They got me where I needed to be.
Okay, so for those of you who aren't inclined to know steroids and pharmacy so well, enough to even just read lips, that's just so depressing to me. I know that. She said that she started with primobolan and she now added anavar, which is, to be honest, highly unlikely in the sense that there's probably much more involved as opposed to just primobolan and anavar. And her coaches are definitely truly health conscious. They've been on this channel, sometimes on our weekly live, and we've spoken with them. And I can't talk much about this stuff. I'm not going to disclose their names. You can figure it out very easily, obviously, that she says his name in here. But the moral of the story is I don't want to necessarily besmirch anything that they're doing, so I could just basically say that my belief is she's taking much more. I'll leave it there, politely.
I decided it was time to talk to an expert, ideally someone who researches female health, specifically female athlete health.
So I'm a doctoral researcher in the area of women's health, specifically though female athlete health, and my research is on female steroid use.
Oh man, this is crazy. Victoria doesn't like me either. Look, she's great, but she's formed quite a few biases based on her academia and in the industry that she once came from. She definitely had very bad experiences using androgens, thus her voice, and that has definitely scorned her towards the whole situation. And you often find her talking more negative about it than positive because, well, that's her opinion. Anyways, enough said before I make more energies. This video is a moving landmine.
How important is it for someone to educate themselves before they take steroids, especially females?
Should be the first thing they do. All too often, I see people going into the pursuit of like performance enhancement. And when they come onto that topic, it's more or less, I want to get jacked. I want to get lean. And they look at these drugs as if it's like this silver bullet that's going to get them from point A to point B. A lot of times, not enough questions are asked about what actually that silver bullet is. And not only what is it going to do today, but what is it going to do long term.
Okay, she does refer to people using drugs as a silver bullet, which is all too true, and they think it's going to completely change their lives. This is, again, very depressingly true, and you see it all of the time. Again, people just drive themselves down this road because the solidification in their mind is that, hey, taking steroids is the only path forward. It's the one thing that's going to get me to that next level physique that I keep seeing online. And then they start with no education, no guidance, no formal blood work, no formal organ imaging, and they just go out the doors blasting some shit that's just erratically insane and doesn't need to be happening. All because it's the way you have to go as published online in many times.
And androgen is a steroid hormone. Your body makes a family of androgens, but what we're talking about is pharmaceutical androgens. And pharmaceutical androgens are a broad class of drugs that act on the androgen receptor in a positive way.
Makes you more jacked. Bro! You have Sebum's arms. I swear to God.
Well, they act on the AR in many more ways, actually, specifically in more places than just muscle tissue. It's part of the issue in why anabolics aren't widely used in females, except a few unique situations, because they activate on things like the vocal folds, the scalp, the clitoris, which all definitely enact negative effects for a female body.
Some women have higher levels of androgens naturally. Some men have higher estrogens naturally. Now, does that mean that a man is more feminine because their estrogens are high? Well, walk around at the Olympia this weekend, and I bet you there's some guys walking around with higher estrogen levels than a lot of the women there. But then why are we saying when women have high androgens, they're more manly? Well, it's because of what we've associated with, aka the side effects.
And she's absolutely right here that all women do have testosterone and all men have estrogen, as I said. There isn't one or the other, or there isn't a male versus female hormone. This is sort of a misconception, and that's something I've used myself in videos, but it's for an ease of explanation. Estrogen and testosterone are both in women and males completely normally. Testosterone isn't inherently bad for females, and estrogen isn't inherently bad for males, but too much of it is a bad thing. For example, and men getting too elevated of an estradiol or estrogen, they begin to develop emotional issues, they begin to develop breast tissue and other things like water retention and pulmonary hypertension. And these things aren't favorable to health, longevity, or physical appearances at all.
Mama!
Have you experienced any side effects?
Por enquanto, no. Not yet.
Not yet. Have you had any side effects from not being natural?
I've just had an easier time recovering and building muscle. So
Not really, no.
Just an easier time recovering and building muscle. Not acne, not a deepening of the voice there. No. Reduction of breast tissue, nothing.
Are you sure about that?
Also have stress urinary incontinence.
What's that?
When I lift heavy, I pee involuntarily. Yes, it's a real thing.
It's fine.
Okay, so while the video paints this to kind of be a side effect of steroids, they don't really explain that this isn't a byproduct of steroids. This is totally a normal occurrence in some women. It's gross, I won't lie. I'm just stating the obvious here. I think pissing on the floor is not well for the gym hygiene, but I'm just pointing out that is not a steroid-induced side effect.
What are some side effects that you've experienced from taking steroids?
Me personally, enlargement, which is awesome, as long as it's not like walking around, you know, like.
Why is it awesome? I'm just asking.
First of all, everybody can find it, number one. But number two, it's bigger, so it's more sensitive. Again, as long as it's not like walking around on you, like growing a little, because I've seen that in tanning before.
Oh man, this girl is so fucking based right now. I can't even, this is crazy.
Do you think that men find it attractive when women have a lot of muscle like an R female bodybuilder?
If a man says no, then he must be very insecure with the way he looks, right? You wouldn't know what to do with someone like me.
Whoa, hey!
Tem que saber, eu não acho.
She said, I don't know, my husband has to like it.
Let's go! One last question. What do you think of muscle mommy lovers? Like, for example, Robbie right here is a massive muscle mommy lover.
I'm not somebody to yuck someone else's yum. You like what you like. Just be respectful, you know? There you go.
Oh, this is the simple cope to this problem. I don't mind barred out girls, but there is a point of no return, as well as, personal preference. For example, I love Asian women more than white women. Does that mean I'm an insecure guy? Well, actually, probably. I'm kidding. Kind of. No, it doesn't. It's just preference. It's just preference, right? And I think guys can have preference. It doesn't mean that, if they say something negative about a female's appearance, that it means that they're secure. I mean, what? It's crazy. I guarantee you that female has said horrible things about males, and she doesn't consider herself insecure, even though she probably is desperately insecure. But besides the point.
The weirdest thing someone's ever said because you're a woman that has a lot of muscle.
With the OnlyFans too.
Do you have an OnlyFans?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So what's the craziest thing, if you can say that out loud?
To
fan request because you so much muscle. Whoa.
Whoa. You said.
Whoa.
They would send me a picture of themselves. I would print it. I would on the picture and show them.
Okay, which one of you dirty dicks was it? Which one of you? Come on.
I remember when I first started competing, I was so self-conscious about muscle and what people would think, and then social media started and it's become a lot more socially accepted. I'm in a place in my life where I feel like I inspire so many people that I focus more on that.
Here we have a gal who's done it right. No creepy voice, pretty beautiful face, a decent physique, and I can really appreciate something like this because it takes a lot more time to accumulate muscle mass like that and do things correctly, because you also have to take an investment into education and start to understand the things that you're doing to yourself to be very prophylactic in the sense of preventing these virilizing effects from happening. It takes a lot of work, and kudos to her.
How does bodybuilding empower you?
It gives me confidence in myself to grow old, you know what I mean? Like I see all of my family members, with ailments, but I honestly feel like this sport has given me longevity.
How much have you had to sacrifice to be here?
A lot.
It's really like a sport about you, finding yourself.
Oh boy. This sport giving you longevity it's not a reality. The only thing that is a reality is the androgens you're taking are holding your body together like a nail in a rotten plank. It's about to crumble regardless sooner or later. It just makes it look like it's stable. Bodybuilding, steroids, growth hormone, calorie surpluses. I mean, none of this stuff gives you longevity. We have data to prove this time and time again. And I think a lot of people also, especially females, I see this a lot, use steroids as the longevity kind of cope. It's not a reality, right? And a hyper-androgenic state is always going to be more deleterious than a non-hyper-androgenic state. Is it cool? Is it fun? Does it feel good? Of course. I don't want to take that away from anyone. And does it definitely make you more able-bodied as you age? Of course. But that doesn't necessarily correlate at all to longevity in any capacity.
What's the hardest part about female bodybuilding?
The fact that not a lot of people like female having muscles, and a lot of drawbacks that you do get from that.
Oh shit, it's Meg, boys. Oh, Meg, no hate. Look, you got a great physique. The video I made that went viral, I'm sorry about it, right? I didn't say anything that wasn't true, so why are you really mad at me? And Kubo's mad at me too, but I didn't say anything that wasn't true. So just throwing that out there. Part of the reason it went viral, okay? I think she's a great gal. I think she just, maybe did some stuff that possibly, trying to say this politely, like wasn't the right thing to do for her. I think there's many avenues of approach when you're talking about enhancements for females, and part of that avenue of approach is time. You just need a longer time horizon, and I think this is the error in Meg's ways, and specifically her coach guiding her, which is a situation you can watch that video to understand everything I'm talking about.
Female bodybuilding gets a very, very harsh rap, and the thing is, what they have done is way more impressive than what the haters will ever do. So I think it's really important for people to realize how much goes into this, and the fact that if a man does it, we idolize them, and if a woman does it, we seem to rip them down.
He says what they've done is more impressive than what haters will ever do. It's interesting. I got told in the army once something really interesting, which is that there's a little bit of truth in what everybody says. To me, at least, this is true. Every comment has some validity behind it. Every person judging you for something, while it might be inappropriate, rude, and mean, could also have a little bit of legitimacy behind it. If I call a fat guy fat, am I lying or am I being a hater? I mean, maybe I'm hating, but is there truth to the statement? That still matters, and you should be able to self-reflect that statement. A lot of the times these females just take no self-reflection. They don't take any responsibility for the errors that they've done, and so everyone just instantaneously becomes a hater. So to discredit anyone in opposition of you is a very dangerous thing to do, because again, it just creates this confirmation bias in your head. Hate is not okay either, right? But I don't think vindicating yourself of self-harm for the purpose of building your appearance is good either. And I know the commenters are gonna be like,
bro, you have tattoos everywhere. The self-harm statement, you such an idiot, indicating you fucking dipwit.
And yeah, dude, you're right. But here's the thing. Like my tattoos, these women have a reason for doing these things. I just hope that, like my tattoos, that reason is quite significant. That reason should truly be really critical and foundational to the core of who they are. I believe that if your bones are filled, if you're content with who you are, if you're absolutely happy and you look in the mirror and you're like, yes, this is the right way, so be it. When I look at my tattoos, very similar thing. I love them and they all have a reason. So that reasons, you can look at other videos to find out the past there, but for the most part, what I believe truly is that a lot of these females don't have that reason or that significance role to play in what they're doing. I mean, yeah, like my tattoos are a form of self-harm and their steroid use is too. However, as long as it aligns with your values in a way that makes sense to you and the people around you, then fair enough. I don't really see harm in that thing. The issue is, does it really align? Does what they're doing at the end of the day really align with them? Because you have to realize goals are temporary, and doing all these things to get to your specific goals, well, that's finite. Once you get to your goals, what happens? What's after? What comes in later life? The sad reality is a lot of these females aren't living by their values, which values, unlike goals, are not finite. They live on forever. They continue in perpetuity through your whole life. And oftentimes, again, these females have a specific goal that is highly desirable to them, and they're in their walled garden, so they're getting all this confirmation bias that they need to get to this goal. And then when they have to step out of that walled garden due to health issues, due to retiring from the sport because they're getting too old or whatever the case might be, it all comes flooding in really fast. So at the end of the day, that's my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, please subscribe. It does mean the world to me. It's free to you, and it helps this channel more than you could probably ever realize. And you guys rock. You guys rock, man. You guys absolutely rock. Look, I'll take like 60 seconds to talk about my story and the tattoos, because I know people are not going to do the due diligence. People are not probably going to make it this far in the video, so fair enough. But essentially, my tattoos are a sort of shielding to my character, because a lot of what happened in my past was awful. Removed from my home from Child Protective Services when I was 13 years old. My mom was an alcoholic, a drug addict, a prostitute, all the worst, right? The worst kind of person you could imagine for a child to be around. Highly abusive, really terrible. I mean, like, fucked shit happened, right? And I don't like to explain because it gets too graphic for public platforms, but the idea is that it was horrible. And so I left that situation forcefully, entered group homes, got adopted one day, emancipated myself. At 17, I lived on my own completely and had a full-time job, the only person in high school who had their own place. Because of that, it led me to a lot of situations in which I was heavily isolated and couldn't really define myself as a person, right? A lot of people have dads, a lot of people have families, brothers, sisters. I had none of that. And a lot of times those systems, those family systems, create an identity for a person, or at least help form it. I didn't really have that. And so my form of identity is by telling a story on my body. The interesting thing is, I don't pick my tattoos. Like, every tattoo I have on my body, I didn't ask for it. I just said, can you tattoo me? And it's from a specific artist wherever in the world: Hong Kong, Thailand, South Korea, Japan, Europe, for Christ's sakes, like Serbia, for instance. I get it from them because I like their artwork. Their artwork inspires me and it tells a story, not the tattoo itself, but their artwork. The style of it is a representation of something that I've went through in a way. And I know that's kind of hard for people to understand, but that is sort of the reason as to why I'm covered in tattoos, and it is a preferable thing for me. I like it personally through aesthetic means, but also the meaning of it all.